Hey y'all, this is the Flip Flop Experience podcast. I'm your host, Leah Thrapp, an entrepreneur who turned my love of travel into a career. Travel is not just a hobby, it's a way of life. Making it happen can be tough. I'm here to offer practical advice to make travel more achievable. This isn't just about my journey, it's about inspiring you to pursue adventure and explore the world on your terms. Hello, and welcome to the Flip Flop Experience podcast. I'm your host, Leah Thrapp, and I'm here back in the studio with my guest, Misty Pratt. Welcome back, Misty.
Thanks, Leah. It's great to be here.
So I'm loving telling stories with you. We had you in for a previous episode, and we talked about several of the adventures we've taken together over the last few years.
Yes, so many things to reminisce, so many great memories. It's been amazing.
We talked about that you found me on Facebook before, but we didn't talk about how you found me on Facebook and what your family thought about it. So tell us how that went down.
I had met this wonderful couple when I was traveling before, and we stayed in contact. I've been to visit, been to their Halloween parties. It was during COVID. She has a small business. She's a photographer. And so during COVID, when everything was slow, she posted, hey, let's support small businesses. If you're a small business, put your information in comments. And you put flip-flops and adventures in the comments. And I was like, that sounds like me. So I started following your Facebook page and watching everything that you were doing. And I was pretty excited, but you never really showed like your accommodations. And so I was like, but where are they staying? Like, and one day,
is it bougie enough?
Is it bougie enough? That's right. And you did a video, a Facebook Live, I think, of the room in San Miguel. And I was like, that's very bougie, like even higher than I would normally like necessarily look for. So I was like, okay, I can travel with this girl. And then one day you posted a last minute opening and I jumped on board that trip and haven't looked back.
But when you grabbed the last minute spot, I think you booked it, and then you told your husband and your mom about it. And what did they say?
They said, well, do you know her? And do you know Leah? And I said, well, no, but my friend does. And my mom had met her and Bob had met her, and they were like, okay. Then I send Jessica, my friend, a message on Facebook. I'm like, you do know Leah, right? Like, she's legit. And she just responded, I've never met her, but I think so. So I was like, maybe keep that information to myself till after the trip.
If I don't turn out to be a murderer, then you can tell them what happened.
Yeah. And here we are.
Years later. Yeah, that's a hilarious story. And also, I love that power of social media to share things, because you live, several states away, and you met this girl on a cruise, and then she lives in Texas. So it's really fun to hear how the connection was made, and that such an awesome connection and friendship was born from it. So it's so cool.
Yes.
So we say thank you, Jessica.
Yep.
And thanks for vouching for me even before you met me.
Yeah.
So after all of these trips we took together, you were thinking about going on the Italy trip. And I think you probably saw me post about doing some private trips. So you approached me about doing a private trip for your friends and family.
Yes. So my mom and dad, they love to travel. My mom has had some mobility issues, problems with her knees. But on the very first trip I went on, I watched how you made accommodations for another lady who just had a knee replacement. And I feel like Europe, like if you just do it on your own, like getting on and off the trains and all these things, it makes it hard for someone that isn't able to walk really fast or long distances. But I really wanted my mom especially to see some of these amazing places. So I started talking to you. I think it was even on our very first trip. I started just like kind of like picking you for information. Like, would it be possible to do a trip where you are in Italy, but you don't do as much walking as normal, and like what could we accommodate, and I want to see all these things, could we do it? And you were every step of the way like, yeah, we can do it, we can make it happen. And so it really just evolved into, I remember I was like, if you had to take people somewhere where it might be their only trip to Europe, where would you take them? Because a lot of my family, they would probably love to go, but it might not be something they could do frequently. So it might be a lifetime trip.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely said Tuscany is my favorite.
And I feel like Italy is on so many people's bucket lists. So, and I have really good, relationships there. And I felt like that was somewhere we could really make customizations and adjustments well. So.
And you did. It was so wonderful. We started in Rome, and you made sure that all the hotels were right in the heart of everything so that we could do some walking around. But if it was very far, we had a bus transfer, and it was absolutely perfect.
Yeah, in Rome, that was an adventure because we were there during the Ryder Cup. Made things extra complicated. We had to adjust so many times during the preparation because it kept on, just changing things because things were sold out or things were closing. And the Pope decided to do something. I don't remember what he pointed a cardinal or something while we were there. And so we had to rearrange so many times. But that was really fun. And I loved that bar next door to the hotel. And I'm dying to go back.
It was like a speakeasy. You walk in, you're not really sure what it is. And then the drinks were so fancy, like bubbling and
fog. And yeah. They're coming out in crazy containers.
Yeah. They have some of the dolls, like the Russian dolls that you opened up.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And there was a jazz singer, so that was really fun. So we started off great. And then who did you invite on the trip? Like, was it all family, all friends? Like, how'd you decide and put together a group? I think we ended up with 20 people.
Yeah, we had 20 people. So I started with family, like my parents and some of my aunts. Then we invited really close friends that are like family. And we just continued to kind of gradually open up the trip. We were limited how many people we could take based on the farm.
Yeah.
So we just took people, if they weren't family, they're like family, known them my whole life, and that wanted to go.
Yeah, and we did a 2-week trip. It was almost 2 weeks. And you actually helped me check something off my bucket list. So the very first time that we went to visit that farm in Tuscany where we always stay, at dinner, my husband and I were talking about it, and we said, like, wouldn't it be so cool? This was way before I had my company, probably 10 years ago. And we said, wouldn't it be so cool if you could come here and it only has 12 rooms. So we said, like, what if you could just fill the whole place with your friends and family and just spend time here with just your people, like in this amazing, beautiful place with this awesome food, and just have this experience together with only people that you know and love. And so it's kind of always been on my bucket list to rent out the whole farm. So most of the time I usually do most of the rooms. I usually have like 8 or 9 of the rooms, but there's always like random people there, which I'm sure they're nice. But I just one day was like, it would be so cool to just make this place ours for a week. And so when you said, what's the maximum? And we filled it, I was like, this is so fun. Like, it was really cool. It was just our home for a week to have a home on a farm in Tuscany.
It's even better in person than the pictures make it look. Because, when you hear about a place that it seems so wonderful, you're like, oh, I hope I'm not let down when I get there.
Yeah.
But you get there and it's even better. Like, you just can't explain how the feel of it when you're there. And to be surrounded by people you love. I think one of the things I love about travel is the people. And to be able to do it with, like, the people closest to you is really special. And just to see them enjoy what you love so much, because a lot of times I'll travel alone or maybe with a friend here and there, but it's so great to do it with the people that you love.
I agree. That's one of my favorite things too, is there's just something really special about sharing it with people you love. And that's really what makes my job so fulfilling and fun. Is like, number one, I love seeing people fall in love with places that I love. And it's always a little bit nerve-wracking whenever I'm telling you how awesome something is. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the prettiest, the best food, the whatever. And I always think, like, I hope I don't overhype this too much. Like, I don't want someone to ever be disappointed by what I told them. And so sometimes I try to, like, not go as hard on how much I love it so that I don't ever set someone up for that. But then it is so rewarding whenever we get there and I see someone fall in love with that place and their face when they check something off their bucket list, and this just amazing moment that they've added to their memory bank. And to know that, like, I had a part in them having that moment is super rewarding. And then to see them do it with their friends and family, or to make lifelong friends on the trip, is something that I really enjoy. So people sometimes ask me, like, do you get tired of going the same places over and over, or do you get bored of it? And I'm like, no, it's just as fun every time. Like, the day that we're on an Italy trip, and the day that we leave for the farm, I am like just as excited as everybody else every time. Like I'm like, I can't wait for you guys to get there. I'm so excited to show you. And like when we go to San Gimignano, you know, like the very first trip I did, we went to San Gimignano, and then I was like really tempted to go twice during the week, but I was like, what if it's really tiny? So I was like, what if everybody is saying, why are we here again? This town has like 3 roads. Like, what are we doing? You know? So I didn't put it on the calendar for twice. I did something else. And then we were in Volterra on the last day of the trip, which Volterra is also amazing. And it was like pouring rain. We were way up in the hills, and they were like, is it okay if we leave early? And I was like, that's fine. Yeah, we can leave. And they said, and also, could we go back to San Gimignano? And I was like, oh, yes. I'm so excited that you asked me that, because that's where I wanted you to want to go that much.
There's
you know?
never enough time in San Gimignano.
It's just so magical and adorable. So it's so fun for me, like, to see people love something the way that I love it, and to not be disappointed. So, and then I think sharing with your friends and family is awesome. So we also had a medical adventure on that trip. So tell us what happened then.
We did. We were in San Gimignano, actually, and my mom started feeling very sick, and turns out she was getting shingles. Mm-hmm. And so I know, like, that she needs to start antivirals the sooner the better. And so I'm like, I don't know, can we get her to a doctor? Like, what do we need to do? And Leah was like, you know, just walk into the pharmacy and tell them you're a doctor, and tell them that your mom has shingles and this is what she needs. And I walked in there like all prepared for like it to be a difficult situation. And I told the guy, and he goes, okay, what dose? How many? Can you come back tomorrow at 9 and pick them up? And it was so easy. Yeah. And it just, I mean, her having shingles was unfortunate, but the attitude, and, you know, you always hear about certain people like thinking, oh, they're not going to be helpful to you as an American or whatever, but that was not the case at all. Like, they were so helpful. They were like, yeah, come back tomorrow. Well, he had to order them, and they were ready when we got back tomorrow, and it made a not so great situation a little bit better.
Yeah, it was super helpful, and it was nerve-wracking for sure. I know we had, you know, just brought all your friends and family there, and at the beginning of the trip, your mom gets sick, and you're thinking like, oh my gosh, like, what are we going to do? But that was something that was really interesting in Italy. I've had several clients before be able to go in and tell the pharmacist, like, I know what I have, or I know what I usually take. And I told you there was multiple pharmacies. So I said, if the first pharmacist says no, keep walking on the road. There's a second pharmacy. Just tell the next guy, and hopefully. And we were trying to find a taxi to come get your mom. And like, it was a busy Saturday, and there was like no taxis to be had. And so and our bus driver came and like illegally met us at a gate where they're not allowed to pick up and drop off passengers. But he said, I'm just treating her the way I'd want someone to treat my mom. Yes. He was so sweet. And so he was like, you have to be standing there when I pull up. Like, you have to be really fast. And so we got her on the bus, and he got her back to rest, and she got her medicine, and it was awesome. But I think that's always such a nice feeling when you're on an adventure and something hard happens, and you see how kind people are everywhere, no matter where you are. Mm-hmm. People are willing to help, and that was cool.
Yeah, and for the record, I'm a dentist, so I was not being untruthful at the pharmacy, but I was just like, don't ask me too many questions.
You knew enough.
I knew enough. I knew what she needed, yeah, and it is something I prescribe, so.
Yes, that was good.
Yeah.
So what were some of the other special things that we did on the trip that really helped your family?
So the amazing thing is since I knew everybody, I kind of like would ask them well in advance. Like, for example, my husband, I was like, Bob, what do you really want to do? What are you excited about? And he wanted to do the Colosseum and an underground tour of the Colosseum. And so I could ask everybody specifically, like, what is it that would make this a trip of a lifetime? So we had some that really wanted to see the Vatican, and Leah made that happen. We did the underground tour of the Colosseum for some people. Some people weren't that interested, so we did a regular tour. But it was just like everybody I could ask, like, what is it that's going to make this trip for you? And if we would have been with another group, like, we couldn't monopolize the time, but because it was just us, it was great to just personalize it, make it exactly what each person wanted out of the trip.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody loved their personalized event, but they also loved everything else too.
Yeah, I think about Jema and the David. So she never spoke up and told us that she really wanted to see the David until literally the last night in Florence, like at 10:30 at night at dinner. She was like, yeah, I just studied art and I wish I could see the David. It was something that was always on my bucket list. And I was like, what? Girl, why didn't you tell me? I could have done that for you. And she was like, yeah, I don't know. I'll just have to come back. And I was getting on my phone, like trying to see if there was like an early morning one I could get for her the next morning before we left to go to Tuscany. And I just felt like we have to do this. And so I told her, I said, well, there's a replica I can take. I said, have you seen it? Because we'd been walking around Florence and I was like, have you seen the replica? And she said, no, I don't think so. She'd seen the one in Piazza di Michelangelo, which is like a copper one. It's not the same. And I was like, no, there's one in the center of town. So I said, let's go. We're going right now. So it was super late at night and like 5 of us walked over there. And I just remember I looked over her and she just had tears like running down her face. And then I started crying. We were all crying.
Yes.
Because she was like, this is just something I never thought I would do. And it's so amazing to see. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, so it was so nice of a moment to be able. And that is true. Like when you're just with your friends and your family, like if someone says something, it's easy to say, well, let's go. Like it doesn't mess anybody up. It's fine, you know. So we send some people back to the hotel and a few of us set off on a little mini adventure at midnight.
Yeah.
But it was a really fun moment.
And she's so kind and soft-spoken. I think she just was like afraid to speak up. So I'm glad you were able to
Yeah.
get that out of her.
Almost the same. I told her she's to come back. I'll take her to see the real one. But we got as close as we could at midnight on the day day of. So that was really cool.
Hopefully eating gelato while looking at him.
Probably. I think there was definitely gelato involved. Oh, if you're in Italy, you better be eating gelato.
Yes.
So I think another thing that I'd like to hear about is your experience. I know that you are a big traveler. You always have been since before you met me. But what was the experience like of deciding to let someone else plan a trip for your friends and family? Because you're usually the trip planner, right?
I'm the planner and it's hard for me to turn over control. So it really, I think having gone on some trips with you and knowing your style, knowing how awesome every experience had been, it made it a little bit easier to turn over the reins. But there still were times I'm sure I drove you crazy. I'd call you and be like, so Leah, are we going to do this at this time? But don't be too rushed, but don't be too slow. And you're like, I got this. Okay. Yeah, I think we're good. And it was nice also because I hadn't been to Italy. So usually if I'm like taking control, doing all the planning, I have some like knowledge. So it was nice to just be like, Leah's done this. She knows this is her second home. Like, do that.
It's a little bit of extra pressure for me when someone who is the like planner puts me in charge. I'm super honored when someone trusts me with it, but it's also like I got to get this right, you know. But I think that it is a really unique and fun experience for me to get to know who people are and what they're interested in and what their challenges or limitations are going to be in advance, because it's kind of the opposite of what usually happens on my tours, because I plan a tour and I'm just trying to like make it where there's something for everybody. So sort of like if you go on a horse tour and you are allergic to horses, there's still fun things that you can do on the trip and have great memories. But like obviously when I plan the trip, I don't know who those people are going to be. And I'm hoping that they'll all love everything or most things, right? But I don't actually get to know a lot of times. And so since I've started doing some more of these private tours, it's really extra special to me to get to know what's important to people and make sure that I can make it extra special or pay more attention to those things, and to really know that I'm making that happen for them in advance, and being able to, you know, like if I'd known about Jamie, I could have made sure she had like a private visitor. You know, I could have done something if I knew. And so having that information is really cool for me to feel like I'm like the fairy godmother of travel in those cases, because it's like, oh, you want this? Granted. You want this? We'll make it happen. And instead of just kind of hoping that it sticks to what people had on their bucket list or were imagining in their minds of the trip, you know?
Yeah. Well, I usually don't trust other people with those details, but you went, like with you, it was easy, honestly. Like you pay attention to details and you look for special ways to make people feel special, and you did that for my family.
Oh.
And we all had the best time.
Thank you. I really appreciate everybody trusts me. I always say, to me, there's nothing that requires more trust than trusting someone with my vacation time and my vacation money. So it's always a big honor when I get to do that for someone.
Yeah.
So thank you.
One of the things that you always do is you want to do something special. Like you'll buy a gift, like a special ornament from the location I'm not really a things person. I'm more of an experience person. So we were bouncing ideas off of each other. What can we do to make it like an experience? And we started talking, we could do a photo shoot. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, you know what? I have my friend Jessica, which is how I met you, but you guys didn't know each other. I could invite her to go on the trip, to be the trip photographer. And that way she can capture all the memories. And we have something, more than just a physical thing to remember the trip with.
When it's really hard to get pictures that you like of yourself on vacation, a lot of times you're like relaxed and you don't fix your hair and you don't have makeup. You're just like enjoying it. But then you get home and look at the pictures of yourself and you're like, nah, I don't want to put this up. I don't like it. So I thought that was a great gift you could give your guests.
Yeah. So we reached out to Jessica and she was excited to go and it just all fell into place perfectly. And then unfortunately she had some personal things happening where she couldn't go on the trip. So I was like, oh, bummer. Well, it wasn't meant to be. Maybe next trip she can go. Mm-hmm. And my husband and I had set up dinner with some friends he had lost contact with for like 20 years. And so we were at dinner and we were just chatting about everything. And partway through, Rochelle goes, well, I'm a photographer. And I go, what? Do you want to go to Italy? And I told her about the trip and she was like, yes, I want to go. I was like, awesome. And in my head, I was like, see, God ordained this. Like, this is what was supposed to happen all along. Mm-hmm. And then I'm thinking that was the reason, just so she could go and we could reconnect an old friendship.
Filled the spot that we needed.
Yeah. And another person going on the trip, my friend Melinda, works in urology. And Rochelle the new photographer had found out that she had a mass on her kidney. And she really needed urgent treatment. So because of the connection with another girl going on the trip, she was able to get her surgery really fast. I think she had it 4 weeks before we left on the trip. So she did go.
And they met at our dinner, right?
They met at our dinner.
So I flew up to Indiana because I'd been working on this trip for these people for a year, and we usually do video calls before my trips to kind of like go over questions and get everybody comfortable. But I thought like, hey, these 20 people are trusting me. The least I can do is show up in person. So I came to Indiana and we had a dinner at Misty's house and everybody came and we just like sat in the living room and said like, what do you want to ask me? What are you worried about? Like, what do you want to make sure of? And that's where they connected. And she really didn't know exactly what was going on yet, right? With her kidney. And when Melinda heard it, she was like, oh no, something needs to happen now.
Yes. And it coordinated and they got her in and she got treated very quickly and it saved her life, honestly. Yeah. They ended up removing her entire kidney 4 weeks before we left on our trip.
Yes.
And so I'm telling her, I'm like, Rochelle, you don't have to take the pictures. Please just come if you feel good. But she came and she was a trooper and she took some awesome pictures. And I mean, it was just, sometimes things happen that are bigger than what you planned for.
Yeah. And the whole trip, we just kept thinking, like, there was so much more in the picture that we couldn't see at the time of, like, yeah, you're coming to take pictures, but if you hadn't come to that dinner and you hadn't met, like, not only would you not be here today, but you might not be here at all, you know? So it was just such an amazing thing that all fell into place and definitely bigger than our trip to Italy.
Yes, way bigger.
So that was amazing. And now we're all good friends and here we are in Texas. Rochelle is sitting in the studio over there with us. So here we are in Texas visiting. That was all such amazing stories, and we've met so many amazing people, and now we're working on our next group trip together. So I'm super excited to be doing it again with your friends and family.
Yes, I'm very excited. The next friends and family trip will be to Ireland, and I'm very excited to plan that.
Yes, castles galore. So it's going to be super extra bougie, Misty level.
It's extra bougie.
Well, thanks again for being here. I can't wait for our next adventures, and happy adventuring. Thanks for being part of the Flip Flop experience. Make sure to subscribe and follow on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Flip Flops and Adventures.